Okay. Good evening again. And it's good to see each one of you as we leave one year and enter into another year. So let's share the screen here and embracing love in the new year. Embracing love in the new year is what we're going to discuss this evening. Embracing love in the new year. Okay. And the new year is usually a time to reflect, a time we should set aside to think about what you or what I did well, and also think about what we didn't do quite as well last year. There's a book that I've been reading, and the person who wrote the book says that we should set aside a time or once a day, maybe 5 minutes, and then again at the end of the month, maybe an hour or two, and then at the end of the year, maybe even a day or two, where we actually look back at what we have done, look and see what we have done well, so that we can build on that, and look at what we have not done quite as well, and work with that as well. During this time, we also think about the joys and the challenges, and we need to look at both, because sometimes we forget about the challenges, but by looking at the challenges, it tells us how far God has brought us, all the things He's brought us through. There's a song by Andre Krauss that says, through it all," and he thanks God for the mountains, and he thanks God for the valleys, because if we didn't have the valleys and didn't have the mountains, he would not know that God could bring him through. And that's what it's about. It's about understanding our relationship with God, and everything that we go through is because of God. Everything. All right. And then we take this time to anticipate what's going to happen next year. What's going to happen next year? We anticipate it. And so we're looking for something that's going to happen next year that didn't happen last year, that we can put our arms around and support, and make it better. Okay. So that's kind of where we are today, as on December the 31st. Now, what we want to do is understand how we're going to incorporate love in our lives, how to incorporate love in our lives, because really the the crux of this matter is love. And over the last several weeks, lessons, we've been talking about things that included the love. We talked about how to make decisions by first taking others in consideration, because we love them. So we think about how our decisions are going to impact those around us, not ignoring what it's going to impact us, but initially thinking about how it's going to impact them, because we love them. We talked about that. We talked about how to find a mate. And we talked about that we need to understand that this love is the true agape love. It's not just romantic love, but it's agape love. And we talked about that. We talked about today embracing emotional support by giving and loving, you know, and that is not about getting, it's about giving. It's about giving. So we talk, how do we incorporate this love into our daily life? And then we also talked about understanding the importance of being a servant leader by having the right heart, by having the right mindset, having a heart like Christ. So Christ says he came to serve, not to be served. He came to serve, not to be served. And we also talked about the importance of encouragement and how that plays into love. Because if you love someone, you want something good for them. And when you want something good for them, you want to encourage them. You want to be there as an encourager. Okay. And we talked about that with specifically with Barnabas and Paul, and among others. Okay. So we put a lot of emphasis on love near the end of this year. And so we want to start off next year with that same emphasis, love. And let's look at the love through the scriptures, love through the scriptures. We look at Matthew 22, 36 through 40. Matthew 22, 36 through 40 says the greatest commandment. Jesus was asked, teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? His response was simple. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And this is really the Ten Commandments. Kind of summarized, but it's still Ten Commandments. The first four commandments is how we are to love God. Love the Lord with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul. You know, we don't have another God before God. Okay, so look at the and we take the Sabbath day for the Lord. You know, we do things that reflect our love for God. Okay, and then the last six are how we treat our fellow man. Okay, how we treat our fellow man. Honor our father and our mother. Okay, that thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet that neighbor's wife. Okay, those are things that are how we're supposed to interact because of love. Because of love. And so we want to take that from 2023 and carry it over into 2024. Understand the importance that it has in our life. Okay? All right. And again, if you have any questions, stop me and let's talk about it. The nature of love. Okay? The nature of love. And we learn about love in the love chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 to 7. Paul writes this. He says, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. Okay? It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Paul defines love. He defines love for us. Again, this is the love that we should be carrying over from 2023 into 2024. Because everything we do on a daily basis should be based upon love. That's what the Bible says. Since all these other things are okay, but when all boils down, love is what's most important. Love is a unifying force. Colossians 3, 10 to 14. It says, and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge of the image of its creator. A new self. Here there is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian or Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all. That's what it says. That's what it says. Okay. That we're all one and the same. We all unified. And then he goes in to verse 12 and says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. The same things we talked about earlier in Corinthians. Okay? And as we talked about before, anytime something's said more than once, means it's probably a little important. Okay. Then it said, bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you have a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. It won't work unless there's love. And people say, well, how do I forgive? Well, you can't forgive if you don't love. That's the reality. Love comes before forgiveness. Forgiveness comes after love. Okay? Love is first. Love comes before kindness. And because I love you, I'm kind to you. Because I have because I love you, I can be humble and have humility toward you. Because I love you, I can have compassion for you. Because I love you, I can be gentle. And because I love you, I can be patient. Everything flows from that four-letter word love. Where where there's no love, the others don't exist. And we might think they do, but they really don't. Because they will exist to a certain point, and then we'll stop being kind, or we'll stop being humble, or we'll stop being patient. But if we truly love, we will never ever stop being patient. We will ever we will never ever stop having empathy for someone. We will never ever stop being kind if we truly, truly love. So we want to carry over this love from 2023 into 2024 and ongoing. Let's look at some love in actions, examples from the Bible. Okay? The Good Samaritan, Luke 10, 25 through 37. It talks about a man who was beaten, left for dead. He was ignored by his own people, but the Samaritan did not. It teaches us what? That love is supposed to cross over any cultural or social boundaries. Love is bigger than anything. That's what it teaches us. And then we look at the example of Christ washing the disciples' feet. John 13, 1 through 7. That Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, setting an example, setting an example. No better example he could set than that. That we have to understand the importance of love. And when we really love, we will be humble. We will do what we're supposed to do. And encouraging, practicing forgiveness and understanding. We talked about that a lot today. Having empathy, and understanding what someone is saying, understanding what they're doing. It doesn't mean we have to necessarily agree with them. It doesn't say agree with them. It does say, though, to practice forgiveness and understanding. Ephesians 4:32 says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ God forgave you. It's Ephesians 4:32. Be kind and compassionate. You cannot be kind and compassionate unless you love. You cannot forgive unless you love. And the reason why Christ loves us and showed us that because he forgave us. He forgives us when we do things that are wrong. Okay? We need to commit ourselves to acts of service. Whether within the church or outside the church, our family, doesn't matter. But we should be serving. We should be serving. That's demonstrating love. We demonstrate love by what we do, not by what we say, but by what we do. We ought to build a community. We ought to be building a community. Hebrews 10, 30, 24 to 25 encourages us to consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, but encouraging one another, foster a sense of community in our church and beyond. Understanding the importance of love. Okay. And I like this verse because it says, not giving up meeting together. So we don't use an excuse not to come to church, to fellowship together. We come together. We fellowship together. Why do we come and fellowship together? So that we can encourage each other. I need you, as the song we sing. Okay? I need you. I can't be encouraged by you when I'm not there next to you. But when I see you and we talk and we share, then I understand the importance of love. As we go into this next year, we need to understand that we've got to love unconditionally. No conditions. That's agape love. Now, a lot of people talk about this agape love and how difficult it is. It is difficult if you don't love, if you don't have God in your life, if you don't have your heart where it needs to be, if you don't have your mind where it needs to be. But we need to put our heart and our mind where it needs to be. And if we do that, then we can love unconditionally as Christ loves us. Again, this means loving others without expecting anything in return. You ever been around someone and they say, I love you? You say, well, yeah, I love you too. Because you feel like if you don't say I love you too, then something's wrong. Well, no, nothing's wrong. It's okay for that person to say I love you and you not say anything. Excuse me. It's okay. Not that you don't love them, but they shouldn't be saying I love you just so that you can say it back. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. We're supposed to love regardless, regardless of the conditions, regardless of the conditions. Conclusion. Take the time to have a personal reflection and commitment. As we prepare to enter into the new year, let each of us examine our hearts and ask how we can better embody the love that Christ has shown us. Let us commit to making love a priority in life, something that we intentionally do, not something that just happens, but something that we intentionally do in our relationships and our interactions with others. And as we say goodbye to this year and welcome a new one, as we will be doing here in a minute or two, let us do so with our hearts full of love, love for God, love for our neighbors, and love for ourselves. Remember, we love because he first loved us. 1 John 4:19. Let this love be the guiding light in the year to come, illuminating our paths and warming our hearts. And remember, I love you, I love you, I love you all.
Only you will talk. We love you too, Pastor Joe.
Yes.
Love you.
I love you too, John. You know that. You know that. All right. Okay. Any quick questions? Any quick questions? Any quick questions?